Hi, everyone. If you're like me, you have found mobile phones in the classroom to be both a blessing and a curse. There are times when I want my students to have access to the outside world, but there are other times when I just want my students fully engaged in the classroom without distracting technology. This is where our sponsor Flipped comes in. Flipped is a first ever classroom engagement application that keeps students from getting distracted by their mobile phones when they're learning, and it does it in a really clever way. Some instructors have even reported that Flipped has been associated with increased grades and reduction in attrition. If you are interested in learning more about Flipped, please visit flippedapp.co/psych. That's FLIPPDAPP.co/psych. Welcome to Psych Sessions, conversations about teaching and stuff. I'm Garth Neufeld, along with Eric Landrum, your podcast hosts. This is a special edition of the Psych Sessions podcast, Intro Psych Sessions, conversations about teaching introductory psychology, where we showcase some of the best teachers from across the nation, from high school, 2-year, and 4-year institutions. We hope that you'll find this helpful as you go to prepare your own intro psych class for the upcoming year, as we talk about assessment, course design, and pretty much everything else. So let's get right into it. Please enjoy Intro Psych Sessions. I am here with Danae Hudson. Hi, Danae.
Hi, Garth.
And thanks for doing this. Again, this set of interviews is just with teachers of introductory psychology. We want to hear from you, what you do, where you do it, who your students are, how you think about the course, all these kinds of things. So I'm just going to fire away some questions that you haven't heard yet. So
right.
So we'll just go wherever this takes us. So tell us, where do you teach?
I teach at Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri.
And how long have you been there for?
I have been there for 15 years now.
And have you been teaching intro psych for 15 years?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this will probably be a big question, but how's it changed over 15 years?
Oh my goodness, it's changed so much, especially at Missouri State, because we did a really big course redesign in 2011, 2012. So I sort of feel like my time of teaching at Missouri State is like a before the redesign and after redesign. And there's really two completely different lives.
Yeah.
I would say the first half was what you would consider a very traditional face-to-face course. It was a large lecture hall of we had 153 students, because that's exactly how many we could cram in there. That was the fire code. And one instructor. So me at the front of the room lecturing, your typical, next week we're going to talk about chapter 2. So you go ahead and read chapter 2 so you can come to class prepared. And then they would come to class. Of course, no one would have read chapter 2.
Yeah.
And I would stand there and basically regurgitate the information from chapter 2. Uh-huh. And then we'd repeat next week.
Right. Was that satisfying back then? Like, was there, because you didn't know better or whatever, was it like, hey, I'm just doing my thing, I'm teaching?
Yeah, I think that's what I thought we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
That was my experience in college in a lot of classes, and that was kind of, the expectation is that you're going to go there and you're going to lecture, and that your role as a professor is to impart knowledge to the students. And then, but this was at a time when really the internet was taking off, and YouTube and all of these different ways and avenues of gathering and looking at information and learning in a way that we didn't really have before. And so it started to become clear that I wasn't the only source of information for our students, that they were able to get that in all kinds of places from people who knew a lot more than I did. So that's when really it kind of started to get to this point of like, I don't think that this is the way it's supposed to be.
How many students from your classes?
We have sections of 330 students.
Okay, and how many TAs would you have for
so we have kind of a unique setup with our course. So we have one faculty member who kind of directs the whole class. And then there's what we call a senior learning assistant. That senior learning assistant most often is a graduate student who's a graduate assistant, and they kind of help us and act in that role between the instructor and also the students. But also we have a team of undergraduate learning assistants. We typically have anywhere from 5 to 7 ULAs in each section. So frequently I have a course staff of about 7, 8, or 9 people.
Okay. And what are your interactions like with those folks? Like, what's a weekly interaction you'd have with these people?
Yeah, so it's actually really a great setup that we have. So we do have one professor who's actually in charge of teaching the class that the ULAs take. So we have a class that we developed at Missouri State called the Teaching of Psychology. So when a student wants to be an undergraduate learning assistant for us, they have to apply, they need references, we interview them. It's actually a pretty competitive process, and it's a coveted spot at MSU now. And if they get accepted, then they also register for this class. So one faculty member, either usually Brooke or our coordinator, Christy Cathy, will teach that class, and they meet weekly with that professor. Actually not weekly, maybe every other week or so. And that class is really devoted to teaching them how to teach. Because one of the things that our ULAs do is lead small group study sessions. Because we have such a large class, we wanted to make sure that we had some of the small class feel in what we did. So our students lead those study sessions, but we also meet in our individual teams. So I would have a weekly team meeting with my senior learning assistant and all my undergraduate learning assistants. We meet for an hour every week. And in that meeting, it's really similar to like what you do in a staffing meeting in a hospital. You know, everyone just sits around a table. We talk about issues that we're having with particular students, what's going on, what do we need to do about it. We talk about what the upcoming lessons are, how the ULAs can help assist in the class, what they need to be doing. And we talk a lot about just the process of teaching and learning so that these undergraduate students get a really interesting view and a side of teaching that they've never seen before.
How fun is that?
It's really fun.
Yeah, like that's not a drag of a meeting to go to, right?
No, they love it. We love it. I usually take them all out to breakfast at the end of the semester. We have a great time.
Yeah, that's cool. What do we need to know about students at Missouri State? What are students like in order to understand what your psych class is like?
I think we are a fairly traditional Midwestern four-year institution. So, but we do have a large first-generation college student population. We certainly do have, we're trying to increase our diversity a lot. We have a really good relationship with a university in China. So we'll have students, and also Saudi Arabia. So we do have some more diversity, but we're always looking to increase the amount of diversity and also age diversity as well. And so we do have some returning non-traditional students, but I would say the vast majority is kind of your traditional 18 to 24, predominantly Caucasian undergrad student.
Okay. Jumping back to the student experience, what is my schedule like? If I'm in an intro psych class at Missouri State, where am I spending my time if I sign up for this class? So in a week, what am I doing?
Yeah, so we have a flipped class model. So our students come to class once a week for an hour and 15 minutes. And our flipped class is also a blended class. So it's really considered half online and half face-to-face. So they do their online work, which is part of their homework, which is a big portion of their grade, is required usually the day before we meet for the seated class. So they have to do their homework first, which is the flipped model. We actually use that information, that data, to then decide how we're going to teach our class that next day. And so our class is not, even though we have 330 students in the class, it's not your traditional kind of lecture class.
So how do you gather that data?
So we're able to go into the program that we use. So whatever kind of program that you have, you can actually typically go in and look at how the
You
students
can
are performing.
tell us what program it is, though.
So we're currently using my Psych Lab, and in my other classes I use Revel, Pearson's Revel, and so that makes it really easy actually to go in and look at how students are performing on quiz questions. It's mainly quiz questions, and you can see where they're still struggling. So that's kind of what we do. Like even after they've done the reading, after they've engaged with the material, are they still getting certain questions wrong? And we look for themes.
So you're giving them these so they're reading, you're giving them these quizzes, it's like retrieval practice or whatever, and then you are able to see, before you meet with them, you're able to see the sticky areas, the things they're not getting, and then in your class, you're addressing those things directly.
Exactly.
Are you telling your students, hey, I noticed that you all are struggling with this concept?
Yeah, and we're really upfront with that at the beginning, and it's part of kind of the socialization process of our course, is to explain to them why we have structured the class the way we have. Why do they have to do the work first? Before we really got this figured out, sometimes we'd hear students say things like, well, I don't want to have to teach myself. And I want to come to class and learn from you. And what we have to help them realize is that we can't have the class that we have unless they've done some of the work beforehand and can actually participate. So we do a lot of active demonstrations, and we do, engaging experiments and clicker questions, and really try to. What I like to tell the students is when they come to class, they know that they are getting from me exactly what they need. Otherwise, why come to class?
Right. Good. So let's talk about course structure. How do you structure your course?
So in terms of like syllabus, like what the requirements are?
Yeah. How do students earn their points in the class, I guess maybe would be a question.
Yeah. So some of the points, I believe it's about 18%, actually come from their online work that they do prior. So it's generally pretty low stakes. This quizzing is low stakes. It's really just getting them in the book, getting them familiar with the content, that retrieval practice. And then the majority of their grade comes from exams. We have 5 exams. We have 4 unit exams, and then we have a comprehensive final as well. And then students also earn points by attending these small group study sessions that are led by the ULAs. So they're required to attend one study session prior to each exam. And in those study sessions, the ULAs cover a little bit of content where we feel like they need to, but they also do a lot of retrieval practice as well.
Okay. Is there any writing assignments in the class? I know it's a huge class. Yeah,
there really isn't. And that's always been one of the things that we are looking to find ways to incorporate a little bit more writing. Revel has some really great ways of doing that now. And even if it's just a simple journal prompt or a shared writing activity, auto-graded writing essay. So there are options to do that now. And that's always something we're looking to improve.
Good. So I'm just looking through my questions here. Tell me, what do you do before the course starts? Take that wherever you want, but what do you do to prepare for your course?
Oh my gosh. Well, so the coordinator of the course definitely has the most work because she has to prepare, she has to work on changing all of the handouts. We have a lot of how-to documents, so our learning management system is just stuffed with how to do this, how to do that. Like if they have a question for anything, there's a how-to document for it. And so sometimes those have to be updated. And so then that's many, many documents to update. We have to obviously prepare the syllabus. That's actually one of the easiest things because we have a common syllabus. We all use the same thing. We just have to personalize it. So our coordinator will send something out and be like, here's your course calendar. Here's all the assignments. If you're lucky and teach the same days as her, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
So she's really helpful in that regard.
How many students do you guys have taking Intro Psych in a year? Or
about 2,500.
2,500. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So about 8 sections?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
8 sections.
Sure.
Yep.
Did I cut you off?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. So, so what do you do before the course starts? You're working on syllabus.
It depends. Like we really work at Missouri State. We really work as a team. We truly are a team approach to this. So we make decisions about what do we want to do differently this time, and we collect a lot of data. And so we tend to be really really guided by the data. So maybe that there's a suggestion that, oh, well, this really didn't work very well, so we want to revamp this part of it. We have a common pool of test bank items that we all pull from, but we all had to work together to create those pools. So we have different assignments every semester. We're always innovating and doing different things. And so there's a lot of prep. There's a lot of training. We do one day intensive training for our ULAs prior to the beginning of the semester. So there's a lot of organization for that. And that's mostly for the person who's teaching that teaching of psychology class.
Yeah. Okay. My next question is content and skills. How do you think about content and skills? There's a lot of content in an intro psych textbook.
There is.
Traditionally. Do you cover it all?
We don't. We cover 12 chapters. And that's something that we decide as a team too, which 12 chapters are we going to cover? And part of those decisions, and we're actually having those discussions right now because we're probably changing what we've done for the last couple of years. Part of those decisions are about student personal development and skills. And what do we need to cover that maybe is not just something that we've traditionally covered in intro psych, but what's going to benefit them in their life? And those are really important discussions. And I think when you can tie that content to a student's life and to what's going on in our present world, it's so much more engaging for them. And it helps them to see that psychology is in their life and around them all the time. So even if they're not going to major in psychology, I want them to leave my class in the end and be able to see psychology everywhere.
Yeah, this reminds me of a new way that I'm trying to speak about things, because I think somebody might say skills versus content, and I don't think that it is. It's when students do understand a particular content is immediately applicable to your life as a skill. Yep. Right? Like to know something about memory or whatever it is. So, yeah.
And we really tell our students at Missouri State, we say, this class is a lot psychology, but it's a lot life skills and teaching you how to learn. That's a big component of what we do. So we want them to leave our class feeling like they're better prepared for the classes that they're going to take next semester, that they'll take some of the skills in learning that they've learned from our class and be able to apply that to their classes.
Right. I just know a little bit about your class from talking with you, but it's like the science of learning is infused in your class. That's the one thing.
From day one.
Yeah. And let's go to day one. That was my next question is, what do you do on day one?
So day one for us is a little bit of your standard cover the syllabus, but it's not kind of going through and reading through the whole thing. It's really to provide this kind of overarching rationale for why we have the class that we have. So we infused science of learning, cognitive science, right from day one. Why is our course set up like this? And there's a huge part of what we do that is sort of, it's a psychoeducational piece, really, so that the student understands why we've made these decisions, that they're not just kind of randomly made, that they're based on data. So I like to show the students a lot of the data that we have from the previous semester or from a year ago. And I'll put up, some kind of, a regression, and I'll say, this is the data. Here's a scatter plot from this class, exactly the same time last semester. Here's the relationship between the students who did their work prior to coming to class and their exam grades. And if you do that, you can have this experience too. And this is how you can do it.
Okay, so how do you pull that data?
So we collect. We love data. We collect a lot of data, and we have for years. We like to, it's easy. It's all in. It's in my psych lab, so we can just download it. And what score did they get on their post test week to week? Correlate it with their total grades or their next grade on the exam. Calculate a regression. Good to go.
Perfect. Which learning management system do you use?
We use Blackboard.
Okay. That was my tech question. I think you covered the rest of it. So, how do you think about the textbook that you use currently? Like, what's your, maybe I'll just open-ended. How do you think about it? What's the purpose of it?
I think of the text as a really nice foundation for the students. I think that it certainly has a lot of content, and part of our job as instructors is to help guide the students in how to identify which content is the most important, because it can't all be that important. They can't study everything that much. So part of the skills is teaching them how to read, how to pull out the important themes, how do you apply that to your life, getting a sense of what the instructor is going to ask you in your exam questions. And so I think the book is really, really important, because we never in our class just cover content. We assume that they've read it. And we'll never go through everything. We purposely tell them, we're not going to cover everything in the class, but it will be on the exam. So this is your foundation. So you can't have these higher level discussions. You can't engage and interact in these fun activities that we have if you don't have your foundation. So it's really important.
Right, and they'll be less meaningful if you don't have that foundation. And I don't hear you say, hey, student, it's your responsibility to read the textbook. You have structured the course in such a way and given opportunities for quizzes for students to check their learning. Mm-hmm. And so you are participating in the textbook reading process with them because of the way you've structured things.
Yeah. And we use it as an opportunity to teach them about metacognition, how they can understand their own thinking about their learning and making judgments about their learning, but also just to be straight with them about, you're paying for this course. Somebody's paying for this course. And if you want to have a really meaningful experience, you need to do a little work to prepare. It's going to be much more meaningful and more fun, and you're going to get more out of it if you've done that prep work beforehand.
Yes. Couple questions, and then we'll be finished here. Extra credit, yes or no? Do you use it?
We do. So we offer 30 points of extra credit. Our course is out of 1,000 points. So we offer up to 30 points of extra credit. That's one of the things actually that we're probably going to be redoing, is how right now we have a series of videos that they could watch and then answer questions. But there's a new feature coming in Revel where you can actually put your own videos in there. So we want to do actually a lot of TED Talks and maybe be able to then write our own questions and have them watch like a really meaningful TED Talk that relates to the content that we're talking about, but maybe in a novel way. And just give them opportunities that way. And it's not a lot of points, but I think it helps the student's sense of autonomy, agency, feeling like they have some other chances, if they bomb an exam.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, 3% of your total grade. So it's really not that much.
No, it's not.
And so are you happy with your course in its current form right now?
I think overall, yes. Certainly compared to the way it was pre-redesign, it's really, really good. It's just one of those things, it's continuous improvement. You're always looking to make things better, but it's not something that is overwhelming to us. It's a challenge. We love the challenge and we always want to try to make things better. So it's always a lot of work, but it's always rewarding.
Yeah. And when you say you're always trying to make it better, you are always talking about data, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you're referring to because
how do you know if it's better?
That's what guides your decisions.
Right.
It's not just the new novel thing.
Right. There are lots of fancy new novel things, but if you don't apply it in the right way, it can be detrimental to learning.
Right. Are you doing anything? Are you planning to make any changes, like off the top of your head in your class right now in the next year or so?
We are currently considering what textbook we're going to use, and looking at some of these changes in like the extra credit and the videos. And I think we're talking about some changes possibly in the study sessions. We actually just recently started using Plickers, our new favorite low-tech, high-tech tool, and that's been really great. And so, we're always making changes.
Good. Well, thanks for doing this. I think that what you guys are doing is great. And if folks haven't heard Brooke and Danae's interview earlier on Psych Sessions, their book is coming out this summer, 2018, and you should check it out. It's integrated with Revel from Pearson. It is specifically connected to the science of learning, and so I appreciate that you guys are doing that.
Well, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.